physics of squash rackets. That was in the list of prospective topics, and along with sailing. So they realized I play squash and go sailing quite a bit. So I was sort of a natural pick. Um, so uh, so I've been playing squash for, I hate to think of it, but for 60 years. Um, and I have had some pretty good results. I've been state champion for 15 or 16 years in a row in my ages. And I have played in some senior tournaments that had like the number 2 and 4 and 9 come to mind in the country. And I did manage to win the tournament. So I do know which end of the racket to hold. Uh, so so usually it's just called squash, but that's a vegetable as well. And so I sometimes call it squash rackets, and it's also sometimes characterized as chess on your feet. And I'll explain why in a couple of minutes. So next screen. Yeah, I like this. This is the edit version instead of the screen show, but uh, so but there's a way to show what I want to show. You'll see. I'm going to first do an introduction for anybody who doesn't know what squash is, the court measurements, basic rules, basic strategy, and then the equipment, the ball and the racket and strings, which pretty much determine the nature of squash, which because I mean, it's some people think it's like tennis and compare it to tennis, but the reality is tennis is a walk in the park compared to squash. Um, so, because I played both and had played in finals of like Western Pennsylvania tennis tournaments, so I do have a feel for this. And then stroke biometrics. This is the stuff that turned up. I I used Claude, ChatGPT, some books I've got. I went through some of the more esoteric stuff with the Squash Pro at the club I belong to. So, okay, so next slide. So it's a fast-paced string racket sport. It's played in a closed court, and the physics are governed by the ball, the racquetball collisions, wall bounces, and player biometrics. Um, so the ball, and you'll see why the ball is so central to the nature of the sport. The court, which you'll see a picture of in a moment, is 32 feet along the walls. It's basically a rectangle, uh, 21 feet wide. 15, the front wall is 15 feet high. Oh, there's a line up there that's important. The tin is 19 inches or 18.9 here, and the back wall is 7 feet. Um, so just a comment about the tin and the nature of the sport. I always think of paddleball, squash, and tennis, paddleball or racquetball. Racquetball is a zero-dimensional sport because there's no tin. So if you hit a weak shot, the point's done for. Squash, you have to get it above the tin. Uh, and tennis, you have to get it over the net and inside the lines. I sometimes think of it as 0, 1, and 2 dimensions, but in fact, given the nature of the ball, you can top players can pretty much run down almost anything. So points can go for quite a while. And it's very difficult to hit it away cleanly without uh, planning your, 2 or 3 shots ahead. And so next screen, here's the picture of the court with the dimensions. You can see the line goes, can people see my cursor?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Now we can.
Uh,
You can see my cursor.
okay, the front line is a line across fairly low. you have to serve. You can see in the back right,
This one here.
there's
Play squash.
big boxes and there's two small boxes on one on each side. The
Box.
small boxes, foot has to be in that when you hit the serve, or actually when you hit the ball, you can be on the line, but if you pick your foot up, you're okay. And then it has to hit the front wall directly above the lower line and below the top line, which is a little hard to see. And then it has to hit in the box on the left, the big box, let's call it. Or the person can volley it too. So next, I'll keep moving right along. Next slide. So here's an actual court. It looks like it was taken from above, which means there's not a glass back to the court. You can see the lines. The lower service line is more clear here. I picked this, it looked, because it was the best view of the court. These people clearly have no idea what they're doing, but we'll get to that. I mean, squash wise, because just about everything they're doing, body wise, racket wise, is wrong. But next screen. The next one was a picture of a glass court, just to see what a professional match would be played in a court like this. You might wonder how they see the ball. It's because when you're inside it, it's black, and when you're outside it, you can see in. So this is at Harvard, which is the only fully glass one I know of. Okay, next slide. So the basic nature of the game, it's very demanding physically, as you'll probably hopefully see in this video, which is just was a clip of some pro matches. We'll only watch a minute of it. Or it's played in a rectangular box, and pretty much all shots you hit, you have the wall or something complicating your shot, and you were trying to hit a shot that cut near a wall or away that complicates your opponent's life. The next item, the ball is not bouncy and is usually hit below the level of 9. Then it's usually below the level of the 10 to 19 inches when it's hit. So that makes strict demands pretty much on the form of the game, which is very different from tennis, and requires a great deal of knee bends every point, and bending at the waist. And another difference from tennis is that essentially you have to disappear after you hit your shot to allow your opponent fair access to the next shot. So that means basically when you're hitting a shot, you have to have planned how you're going to get out of the way of your opponent. So the next, can you click on that, or you may have to copy the link and run it, because in this mode the
It's a
link's
1 hour
going to
video.
work.
I know that much.
Yeah, I just want to watch a minute or two of it.
Okay, a second here.
Just copy the second one, or you have to put it. Because some people may have never been heard of it, or squash, or it's not a household word.
Welcome back for the JP Morgan Tournament of Champions.
Yeah, move that. Yeah. So that guy just hit a nick. Good players like that can hit it so that it hits at the joint of the wall and the floor, and it just rolls out. So Also, I want to point out that there was another Nick. He hit the 10. You went a little further than I, because the points at the
It's
beginning are
11
a little
o'clock.
better.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, the game just ended. Can you move it along a little more and we'll just pick it up? That was a lob. The thing that always impresses me at the pro level, that didn't take very long. Oh, is that just the first game?
That's every day.
Same game, different guys.
We'll change the clothes.
The shirts, yeah.
Sure, so they look like it.
I used to play a lot.
All right. Can I?
Okay, that's enough, I guess. The because a lot of it you can't tell what they're doing. You can't tell, as I'll make a point later on, the continuum of motion. You can't hit those drop shots and get out of the way. If you actually stop to hit it, you're hitting it. Just a quick preview. You're hitting it and moving out of the way at almost the same time. But I always think of it as if you're lifting weights, instructions will tell you lift the weight, put it down, stop, and pick it up. Because if otherwise you're sort of bouncing and not getting the full effect of the exercise. Well, in this case, you're doing the opposite. You're sort of you're not bouncing, but you never actually stop moving, because if the second you freeze, you're probably the point is over for you. Okay, next screen. So here are the basic rules. They're sort of probably what you would intuit. You start the point by serving with your foot in that small box at the back, and after the serve, the other player has to hit it before the second bounce on the floor. And the ball must reach the front directly. You're not allowed to hit it into the sidewall as you are on any other point, any other shot. A point ends with the second bounce, or a ball is out, or a penalty. And the player must not interfere with opponent's shots, either the approach, the swing, or the follow through. And that you must be able to hit directly to any part of the front wall. And if the opponent is standing in your way, you get the point. And if there's interference, you can call for a let or stroke. Actually, you just call for let, and the referee will decide if it's a stroke, which means you interfered on a shot that the person was probably had a good chance of hitting a winner. Okay, next. So the basic strategy is control the middle of the court, try to starve your opponent of time, try to complicate his or her shot by making it hit the ball along the wall. I haven't mentioned, but in fact, the low bounce is a important factor, and the fact that the ball doesn't bounce very well, it is not a lively bounce, to put it mildly, and it wouldn't work if it were. I just as a humorous side discussion, one time I brought in the ball. It was in the car at about 0 degrees. And said, "Uh-oh!" I put it in the sauna, and then I took it out a little late and went and started warming up with my opponent, and it went so fast you couldn't even see it, which startled my opponent. But it did show how important warming the ball up is, and it's really it has very little compression initially, and you do have to warm it up. So getting back to the strategy, when time permits, i.e. about an extra tenth of a second, uh, this sport is quick, uh, unlike tennis, which is slow by comparison. So you try to hold your opponent with either disguising your shot. Usually you just stop and then try to look like you're hitting a cross court, say drop, and then you hit a straight one, or vice versa. And when you're in basic strategy, when you're in trouble, hit a lob. So that basically the idea is to buy time and get back to the tee. So the basic shots are the drive along the wall. It's called a rail, cross court drive, volley, and touch shots, drop, corner, three wall. So I don't know if, I think we saw them in the demo. The pros hit a lot of three wall shots.
What's a nick?
A nick is when it hits at where the wall and the floor meet, and it just rolls out.
The corner then.
And a corner is where you hit the side wall first and then hit the front wall. And you endeavor to disguise that shot, because if the person sees it, you'll lose the point. And you put a lot of spin on it to make it hit the side wall, but then come out very flat along the side wall. And you can get it to either bounce in the middle of the court or at the other wall. But that's what a nick is. And I don't know, I don't think we saw it. I think we did see one where, but if you don't know what you're looking at, you don't realize that the pros particular, you'll see them hit 10 shots in a row to themselves and then hit a nick on every one. In other words, they can do it intentionally if you give them an open shot. And we'll go through the sequence of biometrics for a standard squash shot with no extra spin, nothing special. But once you get on the court, you usually find yourself improvising on almost every shot. It never goes exactly like you'd hope, or rarely. But the important thing is to realize exactly what the standard technique or form is. And anytime you hit a shot that you're not hitting the standard form, which is most of the time, you try to join the standard. So in other words, you should know what you're doing that's not standard and try to join the standard form somewhere along the line. Okay, next. So why chess on your feet? I mean, I've heard this a zillion times, but it's basically the ideas are control the middle of the court, hold shots when time permits to freeze your opponent. In other words, deception, which I think is part of chess. I only played a little bit as a kid. I planned shots 3 or 4 ahead, which is, I don't do it more than 1 or 2, but the pros do it 3 or 4 because they can get to almost anything. And the goal is to move your opponent around a lot and attack weaknesses and to build pressure shot after shot so that you can induce an error or a clean winner. Next screen. So this is the sort of the physics of the equipment, and the ball really determines the ball, and the fact that you have to hit a ball on the wall quite often, which and the wall is straight, so it pretty much discourages a circular stroke. In fact, it makes it, you just can't do it and hit the ball successfully, at least a high percentage of the time. So the ball it's a hollow little black rubber sphere designed with, as they say, low rebound resilience. It's kind of squishy, and you do have to warm it up to make a playable bounce. There are different varieties for and they're color-coded dots on for beginners and middle, and well, that's what they say. The ball is not very big. It's basically 1.5 inches in diameter and 8 ounces, and it has no aerodynamic or spin properties that you put spin on it for it to hit the wall, but it's unlike tennis where you can hit a serve that bounces 5 feet further to the right, a slice serve, or it doesn't go down or up because of the spin. And tennis ball weights, I don't know, as I put here, it has 2 ounces instead of, what did I say, 8.8. And I pretty much guarantee if you tried squash form on a tennis court, one, you'd break your wrist, and two, because of the weight of the ball, and it would go hit the fence every time because it's squash, you're trying to just get it above the tin. And if it's too high, it doesn't usually matter. Whereas at tennis, it obviously does matter. So just to give you a feel, a cold ball from, in the winter bounced 3 inches approximately. It's dropped from 6 feet. And a warmed up ball will drop 9 to 12 inches. And the ball also has a texture which slows it up. I thought I would have mentioned here. Okay, go to the next one. So this is one of the real keys to the game. The ball typically travels over 100 miles an hour on its way to the front wall on a drive. That's at the end. I point out the world record is about 177 miles an hour, which, given that you're what, 20, 32, 20, you're 20 feet away, that's pretty fast. The good news is because it's so squishy, it loses 40% of the speed when it hits the front wall approximately. And then when it hits the floor and picks up spin, it loses another 15, 20%, because the floor is unvarnished wood. And so they used to shellac some, which was a disaster because the ball just wouldn't slow up enough. But I haven't seen one of those courts in years. So as stated, to sum it up, the ball speed, bounce, and weight have a major effect on the game. I don't mention the fact that the wall does too, because you can't swing like you can in tennis in a sort of a circular fashion. You have to go straight through the ball. And and basically you're doing a deep knee bend on each shot because it's not bouncing very high, and then unbending the ball almost instantly. And if you're reasonably good, it's not unusual to have a point go on 10 or 20 hits. So that's a lot of knee bends. In case you okay, next screen, see what is that one? Oh, here's the equipment, the racket. It's basically up there as a comparison of the four major sports: pickleball, racquetball, squash with the strings, and the tennis. They're the same length, but a squash racket is much lighter. It weighs, the one I use is 130 grams, and they go down to 120 and up to 130. I mean, of a practical nature. And you might wonder why I know that. And it's because it's printed right on the racket. It's when you buy a racket of a certain weight. In the old days, you also used to buy a racket that balanced head and was it head light or head heavy? But now with modern materials, they're all pretty much the same at a certain weight. But you might wonder, can I tell the difference between 125 and 130? And very, very easily. And 135, I could tell very, very easily because it just doesn't, it's heavier, but the feel of the ball on the racket, which is critical, is so different. The lighter racket I feel like it's pushing me around the ball, that is. And with about 130, it feels fine. And at 135, the racket feels too heavy. So it, I guess the point is that you're better at sensing, or most people who play reasonably well are very good at sensing this, the weight and the balance. The racket is made out of the strings are nowadays a multi-filament nylon polyurethane with various gauges and textures. It is textured, thank God. In the old days, you used to play with gut, and the nylon strings were smooth and you just couldn't get any feel. But now most pros play with nylon, but and the racket is made with sort of high-tech graphite fiber and carbon fiber material, which makes for, and they do mix in other exotic materials, titanium, Kevlar, to just playing characteristics.
Bob, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. You mentioned that the ball is about 1.5 inches sized, which is roughly the size
Diameter.
of my eye. And you're saying that the ball can travel at 150 miles per hour, which is over 200
Easily.
feet per second. If it's a 20-foot thing, it means that the ball can go from one end to the other and back in approximately 1/10 of a second, which doesn't give you a great deal of time to duck out of the way. You must wear some type of eye protection.
Yes, you aren't allowed on the court without it.
Okay.
But I didn't do the math, but if you're behind the tee, the the books I read said it takes about 3 to 5 tenths of a second to get to you. But you have to remember it slows up fairly dramatically when it hits the front wall.
Okay.
That's if it did. That's my story about the ball I superinflated in the sauna. The sport is totally impractical with a ball that that doesn't slow up, and it slows up another maybe 15-20% when it hits the floor.
So do you
So
custom string the racket or does it all come as one unit?
um, it comes strung with crap string. It's very annoying to buy a new racket and then have to pay $40 for another set of strings, but it's too tight for me. But mostly it's crappy nylon that's smooth. And at the end, at some point, I'm going after you. I go through the stroke mechanics just to show you that how quickly you have to get it done. I talk about the interval of impact, not the moment of impact. And the interval of impact, you've got the ball on the string, you're using severe supination on the forehand to make it racket accelerate. But what that brings up is the fact that the ball travels about an inch on the racket and buries into the strings, so you get a trampoline effect. But the amazing thing to me is I can tell where I hit it and change things. I mean, it feels like a thousandth of a second. So to answer your question about the racket, you buy it, but the strings are suck, and you have to replace them with this multi-filament textured string to be able to get that feel when the ball hits the racket and it's traveling up the strings. That was
So
probably a
with
longer
tennis,
explanation than you wanted, but
with tennis, they've improved the technology so the sweet spot is bigger. Have they done the same thing with this ball?
yes, they have that. The racket, you remember it, not the picture, it used to be much smaller and circular. It's now much bigger. And yes, the sweet spot is considerably bigger than it used to be in when I was learning the game. So, oh, here we are. So the racket physics, So I'm going to go start moving along here. The So I was trying to put some physics terms in. So the racket does have some circular motion, so it has a moment of inertia, and you're trying to push that thing through the ball as fast as you can. Um, so there is the mass and balance of the racket. The bat balance, head heavy or head light, used to be very important. It's with the modern materials, it's much less noticeable than it used to be. So, uh, so next, but there is a real trade-off, however, between power and control. Uh, for power, you want a head-heavy racket with flexible and loosely strung strings. And for control, you would prefer a lighter head racket and stiff, tight strings. Now, the rackets are all the same, so basically, you have to get the manufacturer that makes the racket you like. Um, and there is other physics involved in the string bed of because you are using the strings as sort of a trampoline to try to make the ball go faster or in part spin. Um, okay, racket. So, so the racket, their AI came up with this collision dynamics. I'm not sure how much control the racket manufacturer has over that, but it sounded good. It's because the ball determines and the strings determine that for the most part. But they are considering the weight and balance, not, but as I said, not the balance so much. Each manufacturer decides on what they want, but they are deciding on stiffness or flexibility. Um, and the string pattern is now pretty much the same for all rackets. Um, so they're using high-tech fibers, carbon for the most part now. And the next item is actually fairly important. They are working hard at preventing vibration. And that's what I mentioned, a headlight racket or a light racket, I feel pretty severe vibration. So we're now going to look at, going to look through the mechanics of hitting a ball. So we're going to hit a rail. So we're going to try to hit it 100 miles an hour. It's coming on the wall, and we're going to try to return it on the wall. Those links down below are instructional videos. I couldn't find a single one that was very good. But two of them mention two of the important factors. The second one down there, skimming a stone, hitting a squash ball is forehand is essentially similar to hitting skimming a stone. Next one. So here's the wrist flexion misconception. A lot of squash is often described as a wristy sport. Actually, there isn't any wrist. It's all pronation, the supination. Supination, supination, I think, is similar or the same as turning on a faucet. And it's basically a forearm motion, not a wrist motion. And it's the same as turning off a water faucet that's facing straight down. And pronation is turning off a faucet that's straight up. And the reason for this is several, but one, your wrist motion backwards is pitifully weak compared to the normal direction. So that doesn't work. And you couldn't hit the ball, put the racket through the ball straight with wrist motion. Only supination will work. So now next screen, this is this is a screen that shows up in several books I've looked at. It's the what called the kinetic chain, all the motions you go through in about a tenth of a second. Actually, there's a preparation and a swing, and the preparation you can take all the time in the world, but the swing you have probably less than a tenth of a second to do it. But you can see number 6 is forearm supination, pronation, and so that okay. Next one. So here's preparation. You have to remember you're doing this in about a tenth of a second. So, and you're trying to get ready to hit the ball because it's on its way. And so you're facing the front wall. You turn your upper body to face the forehand wall. And that weight's on the right foot. Lean forward significantly. And that you have to do all the steps here at the same time because you don't have time enough to do them individually. So, and at that moment, the left foot starts toward the sidewall, not forward so much. And the hips rotate further. So, okay, next, I won't go through all the steps here. So, just to look into the little future a little bit, when the front foot finally hits the ground and we're going to swing, the hips are turned almost 45 more degrees from when they face the side wall. In other words, you're turned quite severely compared to tennis. Well, actually, I'm not sure that's true, but you are turned quite a bit. And in fact, in some shots, you face the back wall, particularly when they're near the wall. Or we have a lot of threes. It's very important to have your head hit above your right hip. I hope this, can you hear me? I just got a warning, my connection's unstable. But anyway, your head has to be above the right hip because you want it back because you can't move it forward if it isn't back initially. You're considerably bent over, which or at the waist, which makes almost most of the rotation you're going to do in a vertical plane instead of horizontal, and because you cannot swing in a circular plane because the wall is there. And I defy anyone to time hitting a ball going 90 miles an hour on the edge of the frame, going in a circle. I mean, the odds on doing it right are very slim. So number 3, what does it say? Okay, so now you continue to rotate your shoulders, front shoulder down, back shoulder up. You back shoulder, you cock, as I put it, or load up by pulling it a little further. The elbow goes up. The left foot still hasn't touched the 4. I just want to say at this point, is you're like a spring that's coiled, ready to go. So now we'll see some pictures of the 4 of them. The next one, we're at 11:30. So this is a woman, obviously plays for Harvard, so she knows what she's doing. You can see she's doing pretty much what I said. Her foot's in the air, her shoulders, she's bent over. She's not bent over as much as normal because the ball, you can see it, it's pretty high compared to where it usually ends up. She's watching the ball. That's a key item. Her elbow is high. She's probably, before she finishes, going to get it a little higher and move that the rear shoulder back a little. That starts the swing. So, next picture. this is a pro showing how to hit the ball. You can see his racket's very high. He's bent over. His feet haven't moved because he's just hitting it to himself. And he's not showing how to do it when you're hitting an opponent's shot. The next one.
It's 11:30.
Oops,
Uh-oh.
sorry.
So this is another Harvard player. I think I mentioned it. You can bet these guys, they've been playing for years as prep school players, and they've got the best coaching you can think of. So shoulders are semi-vertical. He's bent at the waist. His knees are bent. Looks to me like the ball is by him and he's going to let it hit the back wall. He's pretty far back. And what else? Hand almost at shoulder level. Oh, his grip. If you look at his index finger, it's separated from so it's not hammer grip, it's I call it a supination grip, because as soon as you're considering hitting with, not supination, you have to grip it that way. Okay, so he's ready to hit it. He's actually his foot looks like it's on the floor, so he's okay, next screen. This is to show you that it doesn't work out. But I picked pictures where it worked out. Like I said, this one doesn't. There's a lot of improvisation in every shot. Well, not every shot, but a lot of them. But he's watching the ball. That's I didn't point out, but it's another key item is that you look at the ball, hit the racket, and what's a little hard to get used to, but you eventually do, is your eye stays on that spot for a while. Because if you don't do that, you will screw up your shoulders. And it's the same advice you get in tennis and golf, probably other sports. And I find it a bit unnatural. I have to remind myself every time I go out there, okay, keep your eye on the ball. Don't watch where it goes. Next screen.
Okay, I just want to ask, it is 11:30 and we're going on slide 25 of 37. How much longer do you think you might need? Because we're going past our end
10
time.
minutes.
Shall we continue, guys?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, but maybe try to go a little bit faster through these.
Now we're about to hit the ball. The foot comes down. Okay, I'm just going to talk. I'm not going to even look at the slides. I'm going to go through in my head what I do. So my foot's hit. My weight is starting to shift. There's a feeling of a fair amount of weight at this moment on the back foot as well, because my head's above it, and that blocks my body from turning at all, because I want every bit of energy I put into the racket to not push me back. I want it to go forward into the ball. So then you start, it feels like you're pulling it down, and you are pretty much. You pull the racket head down, even though practically speaking, it's kind of going and you're rotating because your arm isn't growing. But you feel like you're pulling it down. Then you start rotating your shoulders, and it feels like, to me, you're pulling it down. And it's in a vertical plane because you're leaning over or bent over. Then what do you do? Oh, then your arm, it was important back at the beginning that the elbow was at shoulder level as well. Now you unbend your elbow, accelerating the racket head out toward the ball. And then comes the point where you're getting close to hitting the ball. One piece of advice everybody gives you is accelerate through the ball. Well, you do that with supination. And you then supinate and follow through directly where you're trying to hit the ball. And just wanted to make a point about the supination. And you're doing that with your forearm, and all the fine tuning and precision you get on touch shots, rails, everything comes at that stage. You can make adaptations, but if you think about trying to write with from your shoulder versus from your wrist, you realize that your wrist or your forearm is much more precise instrument. Okay, back to the pictures. So we've hit the ball and it's on its way. And these are two pictures showing people at the completion of the swing. The ball isn't in this one. This is a better one. She's probably trying to hit a lob. Her legs are severely bent because the ball is very low. She's trying to hit under the ball to hit a lob, it looks like. But you can see her eyes are glued to the ball, and they will stay there long after the ball has left the racket, probably when it's halfway to the front wall. Okay, next. Okay, here are common stroke suggestions.
I suggest you just
Accelerate the ball.
show these, and since I'll be posting these on the wiki site, people will be able to read them. Does that make sense?
Sure, but you could let me just keep going. The next one, there's one I wanted to talk. It's vertical mostly, so you through the ball. Time is time. Next one. That I've ever seen, or any I did discuss it with the pro, and he agreed with this analysis, which is the interval of impact, not the moment of impact. So I'm not even going to look. I'm going to tell you this is what I wanted to mention. So the ball hits the racket, and it hits about a half an inch below the center of the racket. You now are subpinating as hard as you can to accelerate the racket through the ball, because you don't want the ball pushing the racket back. You want the racket pushing the ball forward. It probably has to happen just because of Newton's laws, but your goal is to not let it happen. But it's traveling up the racket face, gaining spin, and then now it gets as far into the strings as it's going to. The ball is squished, and at some point, and your weight's going through it at the perfect moment, whatever that means, and the ball leaves the racket. So, and it is a bit surprising what one can accomplish in that incredibly brief period, because if you don't hit it the right spot on the racket, you can tell it isn't right, and you may make an adaptation and not try to go under the ball as much, because when you're hitting, the racket face is open and you are imparting a fair amount of slice to the ball. So, okay, that one doesn't count. And the final one, I just put this picture in here to show that the best laid plans of form and often go astray. And it's just unending improvisation and adaptation for the moment, because your opponent is trying to make your life miserable. I do want to reiterate that on the full agenda, full stroke preparation, because at some point in the pattern where subpronation, that he gets back in sync with the basic shot, because otherwise you really have no clue what's going to happen. And you're trying to hit the ball near the wall every time, typically. And if you're off by 5 inches, that's a lot. So, and you're trying to hit a certain depth. because you don't want to give your opponent the tee or the center of the court. So okay, that's all I wanted to say, that you do have to find the basic form at some point when you're struggling to stay in the point. And it's always better to let your opponent hit one more shot, see what they make a mistake or not. Okay,
All right.
that's the last slide, I think.
Okay. Yeah, it is. It's the last one. Thank you.
You're
Let's
welcome.
see.
And next week,
Let's see. Can I stop this one? Yes, I stop it this way. Next week we have a potpourri. No, we don't. We have a collection of Macintosh utilities, tips, and tricks. Even if you don't have a Macintosh type machine, if you have a Linux machine, some of them might be helpful. And even if you have just Windows, you might find some tips and tools that might be able to be used on a Windows machine. And that is all we
When is
got.
the next potpourri? I could do the sailing one then.
Let's see here. Someplace I have a oh, that's right. We have another potpourri on June 17th.
Or any other time, but
That's right. Okay.
So Bob, you may consider doing a live demo. Yeah, instead of reading all this literature, I've used a racket on a squash court, and it didn't look like it was as complicated as a squash racket on a squash court.
I think what Bob is doing is he's squashing, if you want to put it that way,
well, oh,
1
sorry.
second of
Isn't it?
activity.
1/10 of a second.
About less than 1 second of activity in about 20 slides, describing all the details of that.
And when you're trying to beat, as I said, the number 2, 4, and 9 player in the country, you don't get just to, hit the ball any old way. You get to hit it.
comes down to the Heisenberg principle. Either you know where the ball is or you know where it's going, but you don't know both.
And I also noticed, Bob, I asked about glasses, and I
Yeah.
noticed some of the pros must be so good
They-
that they don't wear protective
They
visor.
never wear glasses.
But
But I mean, the courts I play on, I wouldn't go out there without them, but B,
I know someone who tried
signs.
I know someone who tried racquetball and the last time he tried it without wearing glasses, he got hit in the eye,
Oh, no.
right
The
close to
squash
the
is-
eye. It was enough for
Squash
him
is
to
much
say, "That's
worse,
it."
though, because it's small and going much faster.
It's very
But I
fast.
just,
Yeah.
one quick, I didn't get to use my line in in the sailing one, which I liked, which is about the explanation of how it sails into the wind. And actually, I'm going to say that I'm going to give you an explanation of why you don't need any explanation how a sailboat sails into the wind. Turns out all the ones that are commonly around are wrong, and the right one is once you know it, it's obvious that you don't really need an explanation of it, which surprised the heck out of me.